Welcome to another video. This is the second in my Cute English Villages series. And today's cute English village is Broad Campden, Gloucestershire. A beautiful village set in the northern Cotswolds. We're going to take a look around the village, have a look at some of these lovely old houses and talk a little bit about the history. Now, the Cotswolds is a set of hills in southwest England. The region's famous for how beautiful the landscape is. Rolling hills and lots of old beautiful villages with buildings made of the local golden limestone. We're just walking into Broad Campden now. I've just passed the sign. And here we come to our first house of interest. This is Briar Hill farmhouse, which dates to the 1800s and is actually one of the newer buildings in this village. Next, Briar Hill cottage. This dates to the early 1700s. So you can see the distinctive Cotswold stone used to build these houses. Another set of cottages here on the right. They are Ranworth, Primrose Cottage actually, Ranworth, both early 1700s. And finally, we have Timbany, which is circa 1700, it's believed. A perfect day for walking around a village. We have an old post box there built into a wall, and that is, that's still in service. Let's squeeze through here. Now, because of the age of most of the properties in this village, they are listed buildings. In England anyway, buildings of historic value go onto an official list, and it affects what you can do with the buildings. You need to get special permission to be able to alter them. The idea is to preserve our heritage. So most of these houses are Grade 2 listed, as it's called. Grade 1 listed is for things like cathedrals, palaces, and so on. But it's a useful resource because they're listed. You can find out information about them. So, for example, I can look up when these were thought to have been built. Right, let's take a look down here. This is High Barn and Cottage. Now, the barn, I think, is this building on the left. It's been modernised at some point. However, this dates from the 1400s. I think now it's converted into a residence. And the cottage next to it, it's believed, dates back to the early 1600s. This one in front of me is Sedgecombe House, which was built circa 1700. Now, there's a red pillar box in front of this house, which is interesting because over there we have a in-use post box built into the wall. So why is there another one so close? Well, I've just been over to have a look, and it's not an actual real pillar box. It's I think it's put there as an ornament. It's actually added very recently. I checked on Google Street View, and as recently as June 2024 that wasn't there. So a very recent addition. So a couple more listed houses coming up. On the right we have Cherry Orchard Cottage, which dates for the early 1600s, remodelled in 1924. Whatever remodelled mean, must have been a rebuild to some extent, but we don't know how much. And on the left, this cottage is Pinders, and this also dates from the early 1600s. Now, I mentioned before that there are a few dozen houses in this small village. Back in the middle of the 1700s, there were 50 houses on a population of about 250. In a 1971 census, there were 70 houses, but the population had dropped to about 140. So more houses, but around half the population. There's a number of reasons for this. There's been a decline in the urban population, sorry, not the urban, the rural population, with the mechanisation of farming. Farming used to be much more labour intensive. Got cars coming at me each way here. Yet farming was much more labour intensive, lots of things done by hand, while the arrival of, mechanised agriculture means that there are just fewer people needed to work the land. Also, people nowadays have smaller families. And finally, another reason might be that beautiful villages like this are where people nowadays come to retire to. So, no kids in the house. Okay, now this thatched cottage on the left, this is on the list, another listed building, but it's just called Thatched Cottage. This dates from the 1600s, although it's been modernised over the years. On the right, we have the malt house, also dating back to the 1700s. Now, originally, this was a house and a malt house, so used to produce malt. Now, I think it's converted, it's purely residential, and I think it might be a single house, just because it has two doorways, and both doorways are labelled the malt house. On the right, this lovely thatched cottage is Kimberley Cottage, and this dates from the 1600s. Now, in behind me through that gate is the Norman Chapel and House. So there was a Norman chapel built here in, I believe, the 1000s, and a house dating back to the 1400s. I can't actually see much from here, and I don't really want to pry too close. I'll see if I can get a shot with the drone. So these two structures built 300 years apart, but now they're combined into one. So parts of the old 11th century chapel are now incorporated into the house. Behind me you can see the Church of St Michael. This is actually one of the newer buildings in the village. It was built in 1867 or 1868, so nowhere near as old as it looks. Anyway, let's see if the door's open. Maybe we can have a quick look inside. No joy, locked. Not many churches are locked, but this one is. Okay, let's press on. Now up here we have 3 more old cottages. Well, actually lots of old cottages, but just 3 of them are listed. Bay Tree Cottage, Rose Cottage. So these date from the early 1700s. And along here somewhere, I believe, is Box Cottage, which I can't see at the moment. Vine Cottage, is this it? Now on the right here, we have quite an old building. This is the old Quaker meeting house. This is listed as dating from the 1600s. Well, there's a sign here that says founded 1663. So I guess that's the age of this building. Now, it's not certain if it was built as a Quaker meeting house, although the archway suggests it was some kind of community building. There's a deed related to this building from sometime in the 1700s where it's described as a Quaker Friends meeting house. So it was used for that purpose at least as far back as then. Here's the village pub, Baker's Arms. This was built, well, originally built in the 1600s and remodelled, whatever that means, in the 1800s into what we see today. Now here's a very cute cottage. This is Walled Cottage, and this was built in the early 1600s. There's a small row of cottages here. Now these aren't listed, so I couldn't look up the date, but I'm guessing 1800s. And here is a phone box, which, like so many phone boxes in small villages, is no longer a phone box. This is now a defibrillator. And another post box. So no shortages of post boxes in this very small village. 2 real ones, 1 fake one. A few more buildings along here. Very nice looking, but not listed, so I can't look up their ages. Well, there are a few more houses along here now, but they are quite new. So I think I'll end this here. That's the end of the village, but there's a feature which I just noticed on the way in, which is quite interesting. So what we'll do, we'll get back to the starting point and I'll show you this one other thing. Well, I'm back where I started this video, and behind me you can see a pasture. You've got some sheep grazing in that field. If you take a closer look though, you can see there's the field's kind of ridged. You've got these raised ridges running along the length of the field. These actually date back to medieval times. This was when the land would have been owned by, you know, some big lord or whatever, and peasants would work on the land. Each peasant would be given one of those ridges. You'd have so many yards of ridge, and that was your land to tend. Of course, you then had to pay your dues to the man in the big hat with, you know, a portion of your crop or whatever. Now, I mentioned that a lot of the buildings in this village are listed. They're on a special register of protected properties because of their historic value. Well, so are a lot of these fields. The farmers aren't actually allowed to plough those ridges out. That's the reason a lot of them stay as pasture. And again, it's because of their historical value. You know, some of these date back to the 14 or 1500s. So it's not just buildings that get listed and protected. Anyway, that's the end of this video. Not a very long video, but Broad Campden isn't a massive village. It's a borderline hamlet. Anyway, that's the latest in this cute English Villages series. I hope you enjoyed the video. Give us a thumbs up if you did. That really helps the channel. And more videos coming along very soon.